Welcome to the GameMinder Report, your weekly source of upcoming gaming news and information, brought to you by GMX. We are live at GMX with special guest #Nerd. So #Nerd, how you enjoying GMX so far?
It's totally been a blast.
Yeah, going good. A little bit tired, but yeah.
So what has your favorite panel been so far?
I actually haven't been able to attend any of them because I've been watching our booth.
You've been running your booth?
Justin has.
The art panel, absolutely.
Okay, right on, right on. So let's start with this. We're going to get into some of the news like we usually do on the report. Why don't we find out a little bit about who #Nerd is? Tell us a little bit about yourselves, guys.
All right, so #Nerd is a website that we started about a year and a half ago to kind of get us more involved in the things happening around in our community, and through that we found the game development community and other nerdly funness, and we kind of just explored that as we went, and it's grown bigger and bigger where we're doing our own events and starting to attend other people's events, and just wanted to get the word out that, hey, we want to talk about what you're doing and promote you. So.
Right on, right on. And what are your names? Why don't we start with that?
Yeah. I'm Justin.
And I'm Phil.
And I'm Jimmy P. Hi.
Oh, look, it's Jimmy P. He's here today, too. What have you been doing today here at GMX, Jimmy P?
I have been running the GameMinder and the Uncle Slam booth.
GameMinder and Uncle Slam booths.
Yeah.
So if anybody who's been watching or listening doesn't know about GMX, it's this fabulous little gaming event that we're doing here at the LaunchHouse in beautiful Shaker Heights, Ohio. We got Ian Schreiber, co-founder of the Global Game Jam, who gave us a nice little intro today with his panel, Shut Up and Make Games, and then his 2-hour game design improv workshop where they were paper prototyping all kinds of new games, game concepts. I'm told it was very fun and enjoyable. As the #Nerds guys, I've been running around like a chicken with my head cut off today, trying to make sure that the trains are running on time, as they say. So, oh, and there goes a little bit too much feedback.
Yeah, what happened to the P-Pop? Whoa, did I get that? What happened to the P-Popper?
Yeah, I took it off. I was worried that people wouldn't understand what it was all about.
Some people are smart.
Yeah, well.
Little screen.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's 200%.
I didn't say he wouldn't know what it was about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do
the
these.
microphone.
All right. So what are we going to talk about today? What do you got, Jimmy P? Hit me with the
Do you want
news.
to talk about more about GMX at all, or do we cover it? I mean, I think what I've experienced is that there's been a lot of people that are just interested in either getting into gaming. They're students. They're just. It's a really good big cross-platform of anything that you could think about game enthusiasts or the other side of it. The good thing that I want to say is just the overall vibe. You know, it feels like you're at a huge, PAX in the Indiecade area or whatever, which is awesome. So I mean, if you just it's got the same feel, the same people, and you can still play games. So it's all good.
Yeah, so far so good. I mean, the workshops in the back were pretty packed. It looked like Justin, you were doing the Unity panel, right? How'd that go?
The Unity panel went great. We had a lot of information going back and forth regarding technologies in and outside of Unity, and I think we informed a few people who hadn't been familiar with it, and I think we gave a few new tools to people who are familiar with it.
Yeah, and we actually gave away a full Unity Pro license, which is $1,500.
I'm so jealous.
Yeah.
Wow. That's as much money as the people that are here. We have 1,500 people watching this live.
1,500 people.
1,500.
If you're watching the
They're
video,
doing a standing ovation right now. It is great. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Thanks. You guys are awesome. You can't see them on the television, but there's at least 1,500. I'm not lying.
seriously, at least.
At
In
least.
fact, next year I think we're gonna have to move this to the IX Center.
Yeah.
Because
we're gonna have 1 million.
you can almost not even walk. There's so many people. Honestly.
I'm scared. People scare me. But hey, let's talk about gaming.
Hit me some news, Jimmy P.
Okay, so there is a guy who has a daughter that wants to play video games, and he was going to start introducing him to the classics, Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers.
Yeah.
So what he did, and his name is Mike Micas?
Mike Micas, I
Mike
believe.
Micas?
Mike
Micas.
Micas? Mike, M&M. He switched the sprites of Princess Peach, so she's the one that's controlled, and you have to save Mario.
Oh.
Little gender reverse there, yeah.
Yeah, so little gender mix up, gender equality.
Yeah,
going on.
don't say gender reassessment.
No,
that's a whole different thing.
Yeah,
Totally different.
That's a different podcast too.
It's a very different
It's a
podcast.
different category.
Yep.
You might get the explicit tag.
But that's pretty cool. And honestly, these days, I've read a couple stories about this. Wasn't there one a few months ago about someone who changed Zelda?
That's in the works. They still they did the first few, but there's still some sprites being made. But yeah, that's interesting about the gender roles in gaming and just how it's affecting.
Well, yeah, and it
kids
is. I
growing up
mean,
now.
it's a big thing. If you spend any amount of time contemplating your navel and you are a gamer, you probably have noticed that there is a serious problem whereby there are not any really good, strong female protagonists in AAA gaming. There just isn't.
I don't know. I think the women of Soul Calibur are drawn perfectly. What? No.
No.
Okay.
No, you don't think so?
Well, speaking about games,
I know that I want my daughter to aspire to wear a metal bikini.
Yeah.
and a sword that comes out, and like
Right.
a whip, and then comes
Yep.
back.
Yep.
Well, speaking about games with gratuitous amounts of like drawing of weird things, God of War.
Well, this is along the same lines as this story, isn't it?
It's very
a
much
little
like
bit,
a
yeah.
segue. That's what we call a segue in the business, Jim.
Well, you know what a working podcast is where you have a segue, but you cannot acknowledge the fact that it was. You have to say it was amazing segue, and then
Oh,
you
yeah.
can go into the next part.
That was an amazing segue,
and then,
Jimmy
and
P.
then, and then the other part of the podcast is that you acknowledge said segue and then totally divert from it
Just
and then
don't do it.
ruin the fact there was a segue.
Completely wrong.
Awesome.
Never came up.
All right. So, what was I talking about?
We're gonna talk about God of War.
God of War.
Okay, so there was
Ascension.
an achievement called Bros versus Ho. Oh no, sorry, Bros
Bros
before
Before
Hoes, and that made you cringe, rightfully so. So, and
What
this
was
is-
the achievement for?
It was when Kratos came up. It was something stupid. It was like Kratos. Kratos comes up in every freaking God of War.
Yeah.
Kratos is the main character of God of
Yeah.
War, Jim.
Yeah.
You would think he would.
Yeah. So like he
Jim doesn't play PlayStation games. Does anyone else
no
getting
because
that in?
PlayStation stinks.
Hey.
Can we have a boo sound effects over there?
Oh, I'm sorry. Let's just look at the stats. Like how many people play 360 and how many people play PlayStation?
PC.
Just saying.
A PC?
Yeah.
Okay,
PC
we'll go back to 1997. Awesome.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
All right.
No, you didn't really do that,
Anyway,
Jimmy P.
fine. So here's the thing: is that they realized their mistake after someone had to point them out and apologize and said no, they've never intended to insult anyone. So they're changing the achievement of Bros before Hoes to whatever, dudes.
Dudes before dude.
Dudes
I
before
think-
bros.
This is dude.
Dude
This is-
bros.
This is dude.
I think this has a lot to say about who plays these games, though. I mean, I'm glad someone pointed it out, but I mean, if your target demographic is bros,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well.
See, and the other thing is that the God of War games have never really been strangers to sexuality, if you will. I mean, there's nudity in them. They are, I mean, he's clearly a very macho character. You know.
he's depicted exactly like how every male is in the entire world, just super muscular.
Exactly.
I'd go
He
out to
looks
a
a lot
nice-
like me.
White skin with a big red thing down his face.
yeah.
I mean, that's just me. That's me
That's
in a
my
nutshell.
Twitter
He can
profile.
take me to Red Lobster any night. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
I mean, I have to say this. I am probably still going to play God of War Ascension. I like the God of War games. I think the fact that this has caused the stir that it is probably in and of itself a good thing, because it means that we as a gaming community are starting to become a little bit more aware of not only how we come off to others, but how we come off to ourselves. Like, and here at GMX, obviously, we're talking about making games. We're talking about what we want the future of games to be. I think it's up to all of us to say, this is what I want to make for my game. And if we see that, okay, this is the direction AAA gaming is going, we don't have to follow along those lines. We're the indies. We can move faster. We don't have to worry about it. And I think that the more of us there are, the better chance we have of changing some of these things industry-wide.
Yeah, by the by, I think just at GMX, it wasn't just all guys. We had a pretty good turnout of females as well.
We did.
Yeah.
So
I think Jeremy, you bring up a very good point that now we start to have more of a socially conscious group of people playing games and
Yep.
people making games. So we have this split now where people like indies can react, whereas AAA companies can't really react that quickly, and kind of has a set in their way about what they expect a female character to be.
Right.
Yeah.
I think when your target demographic, when you're a AAA company, is you're putting out generally on the Xbox, which is, let's face it, primarily a male format. When you're an indie game company, you have a small team that can move more agilely and do more creative storylines that AAA just never would be able to touch, ever.
Yeah, I agree. I think that if it's all about speed, and I mean, we were featuring a bunch of like the rapid game development tools today. We were featuring, we've talked about this, Jimmy P and I, before, about how things are moving. Desktop publishing and blogging made it a lot easier for the individual to get their written word out. YouTube and cheap video cameras and camera phones have made it easier to get your video out. And now with these sorts of tools, it's going to make it easier to get your game out. And I think that the industry, maybe, you know, the AAAs might be dinosaurs and not able to move quickly enough, but things like the Ouya, I think, are now showing that exactly having a developer-centric console is a good idea. I know Steam is a little bit bigger, but they've had the opportunity to shine a light on some smaller developers who are moving in a quick, interesting way.
They've been using Project Greenlight to really pump up some projects. And even before that, they would like recognize some of these mods that came out and put them on their thing. And I actually hear that they're going to move away from the Project Greenlight. Like, we're getting tired of like people like we're not voting. Like, if we like it, it's going to be on there. Like, it's just how it is going to be soon. So I think that's awesome.
Yeah, I think overall the volume of good independent games that are going to finally start to reach the audience in a more effective way is really going to just start to grow. You know, even more in these days.
Most definitely.
All right.
Well,
what's next on the docket, Jimmy P?
We got a couple more things here. Disney Infinity.
Delayed.
Yeah, no, it's been postponed. Now, what actually is Disney Infinity? Can you?
Yeah, Disney Infinity is Disney's take on Skylanders. So Skylanders is, you know, that.
You buy a
figurines, you buy the figurine, and then you can bring that figurine, allows you to bring it into the digital realm, and so this is Disney's version of that. It was supposed to come out in June.
What system was it supposed to come out? I can't remember specifically off the top of my head. Was this like a Wii system or a 64 kind of thing?
Which one, Infinity?
Infinity. Yeah.
I think it's on multiple, actually.
Is it? Okay, because I played a little bit of the Skylanders, and I like the idea. I'm a little too old to buy a whole bunch of figurines.
Yeah.
At Walmart, people look at me.
See, that's my kids are actually starting to get to that age where I have a feeling.
You're lucky you have kids. Dang it! I just look like the weird, like,
is he though?
24-year-old guy.
Hey.
I think I am. No, I love your kids.
Yeah, they're really just starting to get into gaming in a big way. So I foresee a number of either Skylanders figurines or Disney Infinity figurines. Probably those, because then, you know, right now they're very into like Mater from Cars and The Incredibles, and, you know, and Disney's going to have all of those. It's going to have the whole Pixar group. It's going to have all the Disney characters, you know, like Goofy and Mickey and all the rest of it. And now, who knows, maybe they're Star Wars characters?
That'd be really interesting.
You know what awesome would have been if Micro Machines could work like that with a video game? I know there was the Micro Machine video game, which I don't know what
it didn't actually have the physical.
No, but if, like, think about how the millions of Micro Machines we all had. And if there was a way that we can just like scan that Micro Machine.
Well, I'm curious, does anybody know what the actual holdup on Disney's end was?
I didn't read deeply enough into the thing. I just saw Disney delayed, and then I just, reported.
It only seems like a few month thing, but it's still it's something I would have liked to see out.
The technology's been around for a while now. In Japan, especially, they had a lot of card games and a lot of those figurine games already, where they had a lot of interaction. They had consoles that you could go up to at stations and come and play this game multiplayer.
Yeah. So. Interesting. Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's a part of me that dies inside a little bit because I love the idea of, and I said this in a panel earlier, software is an infinite resource. There's always more software that can be written. There's always more ideas, concepts. It is a non-tangible good. Once you force it to be tied to these physical bits of plastic that are someday, let's face it, going to end up in a landfill, that is unfortunate to me. But by that same token, if it opens up new interesting sort of gameplay things or whatever, I'm kind of torn.
Well, let's talk about that for a second, because I've listened to a couple of your podcasts, and you talked about people not being able to buy used games, which you might be killing a next generation who might be we have set up here today a NES system, which I had when I was a kid. I have 3 of them. I've bought them over the years because they just keep breaking, but I can go out, buy one of these, and play games that I played when I was a child. My parents played before that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Will there be a time when people won't be playing? The original Xbox, is technically useless because you can't hook it up to the internet anymore. And the games that they just don't sell them. You can't buy used ones because used stores just don't supply them anymore. So is there going to be a day where we just don't go back to used games? I'm more of a Steam platform where you might get a port.
Well, it's funny because I think gaming in general is different than other forms of media.
Most definitely.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, you move from vinyl to 8-track to cassette to CD. It's all the same music.
Yes.
But because gaming is code and it requires to be processed and what have you, we do have this thing where there is a history of, our shared cultural gaming history that could just go away and never be experienced again because, the hardware that it originally ran on, or it's not ported correctly, or someone loses the source code. It's just not, it's a very different kind of a thing.
But wasn't the, the majority of the lure of the Wii, yes, it was Wii bowling, but wasn't it the majority of the fact that the Wii store or whatever it's called, you were able to download all those old games?
PlayStation has done this as well. Yeah.
But what I'm saying is that like, sure, you may not be able to play the original cassette, but my thinking is that like every other or maybe every new generation of hardware is still going to allow you to buy
play the previous,
the previous and the previous.
I'm talking about more of like the smaller developers who can't particularly get on that network, and also maybe I'm being a hipster about this, but I like holding the old controller. I like holding the old cartridge. I mean, it's like the person who collects vinyl still to this day. It's like maybe I'm just that kind of person.
But like vinyls eventually came back. I mean, it's making a huge comeback
Most definitely,
right now because enough people came back to it. I mean, if there's going to be a need for the original Nintendo controller to be hooked into the Xbox Next or the PlayStation 4, people will make one and figure out how to firmware it in there. So, I mean, I'm not saying that it's like the 2-button controller is dead because we can't get a gray box anymore.
Right.
If there's a need for it, it'll go there. So I'm not really afraid that there will be a generation that will never know the sound of the Zelda, they're playing, or what up down down A B really is.
Yeah.
I think there will always be a way to keep that going.
I don't think you're right.
Is that a challenge?
I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you. I understand what you're saying, but I do think that there is a certain... Some of those games will continue to exist, and some of them will be ported, but some of them just won't. And it's a different situation than...
Okay, so like those games are lost because no one wants to play it.
Okay, but just because no one wants to play it, that doesn't mean that they're not part of our shared gaming history.
Okay, but
Jimmy P is taking the position of the dyed-in-the-wool free marketeer.
This
if
is
it
history
dies, it
goes
was meant to die.
Well, okay, fine. So they're saying that there's someone who really wants to play the crappy ET Atari game that's in a landfill in Nevada right now. There's like, oh no one's gonna be able to see what a crappy game is.
I would love to play this game. I would love to play the ET game. I would.
Now, are you gonna love to play it because you can say you played the crappy? Or
to say that I played it.
Yeah, it's not because of the experience of.
No.
Yeah, thank you.
But but that's hello. It's gaming. The only purpose to it is the experience. It is an experiential thing. Whether you're playing it because you want to play it to the end because you played it, or you just want to say you played it, doesn't really matter. That's like saying like, oh, I only listen to music, but I only listen to it because they use the note E. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like it's the experience of hearing it. It's the experience of playing.
Okay, fine. So what's the difference in the experience of playing it on a port on a Mac or a PC or playing on the original Atari?
No, but the problem is a lot of them aren't getting ported. You have something like a PS2 that has a massive game library that is no longer going to be supported in future generations. And talking about losing that game history, it's the same as history goes to the victors. It's that AAA title at the time is the one that's going to progress and still be accessible.
Maybe. I'll put it to you like this. Let me ask you this question, Jimmy P. When you hear about like, oh, the Beatles' original master recordings were lost in a fire or something like that, people consider that to be a big deal. Why? It's not like we don't have all of the derivative recordings from it. There's something about that piece of history, and it could be the Beatles, it could be some no-name band. It doesn't really matter.
Is it the item itself, or is it actually listening to the item itself? There's a difference between reading the Constitution and the first Constitution. It's the fact that, like, is it like, oh my goodness, I can't read the original Constitution anymore? No, it's the fact that it was the original Constitution. We're talking about two totally separate things.
But I think they're both important.
Yeah, well, I hate the fact that I can't go to Target right now and buy the original, unaltered version of Star Wars. I have them on VHS. Yeah. I hate the fact that I can't go. Like, they're deteriorating. My DVDs, I don't have DVDs of them. There's no Blu-rays of them. I would love to own that, but I can't own that, and they will never put that out. And that's the same thing that's happening here. I will never be able to get, at one point,
but
Halo.
You can, but it's available, though. It's just not on the medium that you want it on.
Actually, to be technically accurate, it is not available anywhere. Nowhere are they selling new copies of the original Star Wars trilogy anymore.
Exactly.
Okay, it's available in ways that may not be, law-abiding. But if you want to have the experience, you can still go out and have the experience.
Okay, but again, the point that he was getting at it that started this whole discussion is that starting with this generation, some of those will not only not legally possible, but not technically possible. That's what he's saying. Like, especially when you talk about digital distribution, there is no physical copy anywhere.
Yeah, it's just gonna be as soon as the download's gone, you're either gonna have to go find some download of someone else who loved it as much as you, which is hard to do sometimes. And it's just gonna be gone. Like, what if it's a network game? It's just gone. It's just gone. Like,
I understand that, and I do not like the way that the always online, even though it does seem like Sony is taking a step back from having always online things.
Yep. They have said that you will be able to play offline and disable any and all of the social features if you like.
I like that idea.
But the other thing too is that, like, I also don't think used games are going to go away altogether too. I like the idea of, all right, fine, I will buy Mass Effect for $10. And then, actually, I do know a store owner that's doing this. Whatever the game is, if he would have sold it for $30, he's now selling it for $10, meaning that because he knows that there's a $20 add-on to get the full game.
right.
So I think that's the only big change, is that you'll still be able to get a used game. You'll have to pay $20 to the developer that's not getting the money now. And then it's really, yes, it's going to hurt the used game guy. I mean, that's it. But I still think they'll be available, and I still think you'll still have the same experience. You're just going to be paying two different people.
All right. Well, I think we've gone far enough down this rabbit hole. What other news items do we have?
SimCity sucks. Next.
Yeah. Well, SimCity, I believe we reported on this last week that SimCity had a huge
Right. And apparently
mess
someone
up.
has, their servers just couldn't handle it. Wow, who would have thought that was going to happen? But but apparently someone hacked the servers so that they can play them offline-ish, like play networked-wise.
Yeah,
which is
good
big
because
it
if
should
you're
have been
really
in the
dying
game
to play SimCity,
Kind of the point.
Yeah, it should have been in the game originally that two people in the room could play with each other. That just it doesn't make sense that wasn't a thing.
All right, was that it on the news? Jim?
That's it.
Alrighty. Well, I think we should we go into some of the stuff that we usually do? Like, I didn't even look at what's coming out this week. You want to tell me what's coming out this week? Pull it up on your GameMinder app.
GameMinder app. Let's go search here. Release dates coming out this week. Gears of War Judgment.
Ooh.
The Walking Dead
Did you ever play?
Survival Instinct. Resident Evil 6.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of good games. Need for Speed Most Wanted. Now, here's a funny thing. There was already a game called Need for Speed Most Wanted that came out, I think, like 5 years ago or 6 years ago.
Well over that.
And now they're coming out with a game called Need for Speed Most Wanted, which is different from the original game that was called Need for Speed Most Wanted,
So-
but it's a Need for Speed game that's Most Wanted.
Does it have cops? Because they took out cops for a while there because it was getting like a negative connotation, and that was the only fun part about that entire game.
Sure.
Okay. Oh.
All right.
I was always a Burnout guy,
All right.
not so much a Need for
Yes,
Speed guy.
I was a Burnout guy as well.
I was a Need for Speed guy.
Okay.
Are we talking about games
And
still?
then,
I don't know.
uh-oh.
Yep, there goes. I hear the music coming, so I guess that's gonna do it for the
I guess
GameMinder
that's
report
it.
this week.
Okay.
Right, Jimmy P?
Visit #nerd.com.
All right. Yeah, so special guest #nerd at #nerd.com. Thanks, guys, for coming out to GMX, and thanks for being
Thanks
with
for
us on
having
the
us.
podcast.
And to view this,
Thank you.
whoa, I can't hear myself anymore. We got bouncies going on.
Can we move you over here?
Who knows? We had a good time at GMX, and we hope you did too. We gave out some software. We had some good times. But this is Jimmy P, #nerd, and Jeremy reminding you, don't forget to play.